God requires obedience. I don't see the end from the beginning, but Christ tells us that He is a lamp unto our feet. He shows us the next step. So I might not have the path laid out for me clearly, but God has given me a light for my next step. My name is Maureen Melania. I'm born again. I love the Lord. Background, I'm a medical doctor, family physician, working in an area that is underserved. And I came to know the Lord for who He is in 2007. I was a bit older. That was after I had finished high school and I was in college and just before I went to medical school. And it was that time, I think, someone from the school would go door to door preaching Christ to the students. So there's someone who came to my room. And I think from whatever he spoke to me about, I realized I didn't actually know the Lord. I grew up in a Christian background. You know, Africans, we grow up, we were born Christians and not Muslims or any other religion. So we think we are Christians, but I had not really given my life to Christ and gave him my full commitment. So I think in 2007, June, when someone ministered to me, a peer, that's when I gave my life to Christ. And I think that's where my life changed from there on.
And as you have followed Jesus, what was or is an area of your life where you felt like he was calling you into greater intimacy or obedience or greater lordship over your life?
So when I got to know God and committed my life to Christ in 2007, I think that was a like 360-degree change to my life because I sought more. I sought more than just what I had known in my background. So through that process, when I joined medical school, that was like 6 months later, I joined Christian Union. That's a union for students in the medical school category. And through that Christian Union, I got to do a course called Kairos. Kairos is a course which teaches us really just showing us how God is in the process of reconciling man back to himself since the fall of man. And I think Kairos, the take home message was Matthew 28, where we are commanded to go to the nations and preach Christ, because this gift of salvation, it's really given to all of us, and every human being under the sun deserves to receive it, because Christ died for each and every one of us, despite the background, the religion where we were born. This is the gift of God to everyone. So I think Kairos course really changed my mindset because, if I might deviate a little bit, I was born in a background that was not financially stable. I came from a background that was, I would say, by the standards, poor. So a chance to go to medical school, that was my escape ticket from poverty and making a good life for me and hopefully lifting my family with me out of the situation we were in. So doing Kairos and seeing that, I'll not become a medical doctor to make money and escape the village and go to town and change the whole life that I had known. God just hit me with a different path for me. Because now that was an opening that, yeah, I'm a medical doctor, I'm doing a medical degree. It's my ticket for me to escape poverty. But God is calling me to a greater role, and that is to serve Him, that is to go to the nations, that is to make everyone to get to know Him. So that changed my mindset throughout my medical school, my 6 years in school. I knew I'm becoming a doctor to go serve. And also, God revealed to me that my medical degree was a ticket for me to be able to go anywhere in the world, really, because my medical career can take me to every part of the world, take me to every people group because they need my services. But that's an avenue for me to preach Christ. I think Kairos, the course changed my mindset. Then after medical school, there's a period where we wait before we get to work. And I took that time to go to Chalbi Desert. There is a place called Oltorot, deep in northern Kenya, Chalbi Desert. It's an arid place among the Rendile and Turkana people, least reached people group. And I stayed in that village with the pastoralists for 6 weeks. And I think that's where God brought me, because I was living among a people, one, who've not been exposed to the modern world. Number two, disease they're traditionalists, so they have no idea who Christ is. And maybe I'll give a story. We would go from one door to door. Really, they don't have doors because, those carved huts made of sticks. We would go there at night when they have come back with their cows. And I remember one day we were in an old man's house and we were asking him if he knows Jesus. And he's like, yeah, we've had a couple of visitors come by our village, but someone named Jesus, I'm not sure I've heard about that one. And I think such stories, those 6 weeks, seeing their need, them dying of preventable diseases. I'm a medical doctor. I can do something about it. No one wants to go work in that area because, as I'd said, our careers, we want to go to big towns where we practice and make a life for ourselves. So those 6 weeks were a turning point for me to know that, yeah, these people need me. And God is calling me to serve such people because He loves them as much as He loves me. So the 6 weeks I stayed in Chalbi Desert among those pastoralists was a confirmation. I think God spoke to my heart during that time and told me, this is where I want you to work. This is the place, the kind of people. I died for them, each and every one of them. And they deserve to know about me and they deserve to receive the gift of salvation. And this is what I want you to do. So I think that to me was a turning point to know, yeah, I'm a medical doctor, but God is calling me for a greater purpose than just what we do as medics.
And what challenges and struggles did you run into as you walked through this experience and as He guided you through this process?
Challenges have been a couple, but I think the biggest challenge or hurdle that I have to, and I'm still, is I had mentioned I have a family. And this family, I'm one of the few who got an education and have a secure in sort of in life. I can make a living, a good living, and I can help the family behind. And now I am not making that good living according to the standards of people or the expectations of my family. I'm choosing a different path. So that was very difficult for me to get my family to that understanding that I'm a medical doctor and at some point in my career, I'm going to go to the mission field and do missionary work and not work really. And I think time and time again, I had to ask God to touch the hearts of my family, my mom, my sisters, and my brother to know that as much as I went through medical school, I finished, I did my master's sponsored by Medicine. I've seen how God has provided each and every step of the way. So I'm not worried. God will provide for you. God will sort you out. I know there are problems. There are people who need to go to school, but God will sort it out because He made sure I went through school up to my master's level. It had been a challenge. I'm somewhere with my family. What I would say, they are still supportive. They will have not been a hindrance to me coming to the mission field, but they worry and they keep praying that hopefully I'll change my mind and turn the course of my life. So I think that's one thing that I'm praying to God, that they will understand and be at peace with the decision that I've made with my life. So that's one was the biggest challenge that I've been able to face.
And what happened as you've walked in obedience to this call? And maybe what did you find out about yourself? What did God reveal about Himself through this process?
So this process has been a journey. As much as I said Chalbi Desert changed me, it's been a battle in my heart, trying to understand if this is the path that God has called me to follow. And, having people around me question my decisions, question if really it's God working through me, if it's really God revealing Himself. Has God really called me, or am I just making decisions based on a knee-jerk reflex? And that gets to someone at some point, and going through the process of wanting that reassurance every step of the way. And I think God has been gracious to me because He's allowed me to rely on Him 100% in everything that I do. It's not been black and white every time, but every time I've taken a step of faith, God has shown Himself very faithful. So there are situations I've gone through. It's not been smooth all through, but I look back and I've seen God working and walking with me every step of the way. I work in a Muslim village right now. It's not as easy as I thought. Sometimes I think I would just jump and I would tell people about Christ and they will receive it with rejoicing and thanksgiving. But really, Muslim evangelism is different. I need to calculate relationship and I need to show them the love of Christ through my walk, through my talk, through my medical help that I offer them. It's not as easy as go and preach and people turn to Christ. It's been a journey where I'm just trusting God for each and every person that I touch in my medical career. So I've learned that on my own strength, with my medical knowledge, I'm still deficient. I need God every day. I need Him to reassure me every day that I'm doing the right thing. There are stories that come through. There are people who come and they start questioning, they start opening up, and I get to pray with my patients and I get to go deeper in conversations with the patients. And those are the days that I realize, yeah, God is working through everything that I'm doing.
Did saying yes to this journey cost you anything?
Yes. um I wouldn't call it as a cost. It's the worldview. The worldview, as I had said before, sometimes the worldview changed for me when I knew that this is a command. Matthew 28, go to the whole world. It's not a suggestion, it's a command for every living Christian. Once you know Christ, you're commanded to go. So to me, I wouldn't say that it's a cost because you've reminded me yesterday I was watching a documentary about a guy who had been through mission work. It's called The Insanity of God. And I think it's a common story of a missionary who had been to Somaliland, to Kenya, to Malawi. And he keeps asking himself, is Christ worth it? And to me, I feel he is worth any cost. If I use the world view, I would say I quit my job 2 years back, no, 1 year ago, and came to this village. And someone would think it cost me a life that everyone dreams of. But to me, I think every day it comes, I realize it's a privilege for me to be here. It's a privilege for me to serve Christ. So as much as my family, my friends, people would think that I've lost, to me, every day Christ confirms He's worth it, and it's a privilege. It's not really a cost.
What have you learned through this process?
I've learned God requires obedience. And another thing I've learned, I don't see the end from the beginning, but Christ tells us that He is a lamp unto our feet. He shows us the next step. So I might not have the path laid out for me clearly, but God has given me a light for my next step. Through the process, I've learned to trust God for new mercies every morning. I'll stay here. I will serve in this community. I will be obedient to God's call, and I will be okay with the next step until I get to do what He's called me to do.
And how is your life different after answering this call and invitation and walking in obedience to King Jesus in this area?
I'm growing. My faith is growing. My faith in Christ is becoming stronger. When I look at the challenges, it's not easy serving in the community. Their needs. It's a poor community. They look at me more than their doctor. Someone is hungry, someone is starving, someone is facing gender-based violence. Through what I've experienced in the mission field, having served in this community with all their issues and their shortcomings and the fact that they do not even know Christ, and more so they reject Him, it has changed my perspective really about life, about people, about myself, my desires, my needs. It has taught me to focus more on what is important in life and not what I think or what the world tells me is important. I think I've grown to such a point that I realize I'm totally dependent on God in everything, and that the things that I think are important to me may not be what I really need or the kind of life that I need to live. But if I walk in obedience to the calling that God has put in my heart, it makes a difference because I get to look at life in a different worldview. And I just hope and wish my friends, my family could see this different perspective of life, that we are here to serve Christ and to make other people known to Christ. And I'm a medical doctor. I work in the community. I treat their medical conditions. But I've also learned that as much as it's important for our survival as humans, it's not the most important thing for me to do. The most important thing for me to do is to make sure those people have heard of the gospel.
Last question. Who is Jesus to you?
Jesus is, how do I phrase it? Jesus is my everything. He's God. He's my savior. He's, as I had said from the what I had watched, he's worth it. He's worth every breath that I get to take. That every day that I live, it should be for him. So I've learned through my life, through how he's shown himself faithful to me, that I'm nothing without him.